Hey y'all, happy Tuesday. So I am going to give everyone just a few minutes to come into the room. Hopefully everybody is doing well and having a good Tuesday so far. Make sure you let me know as you are coming into the room. And so we are most likely not going to be here for super long tonight, but I did just want to talk about a couple of things before I start diving into everything tonight. Let me go ahead and take an opportunity to shout out my patrons. Thank you so much for supporting my content and making these Hey Y'all Tuesdays possible. A special thank you to my VIP patrons, Ray, Michael Ray, Daniel, and Alexander. Thank you all so much. Hey, y'all, to everybody coming in the room. Hey, Bruce. Hey, DJ Moss. Hey, Helena. Hey, Jupiter Black. Hey, Cutie One. Hey, Ever Ready. So, hopefully everybody is doing good. Hey, Abdul. Hey, Chad. Hopefully everybody is doing good. I haven't seen some of you guys in a couple of weeks, so it's good to see some familiar faces in here tonight. And hopefully everybody is doing well. So we're going to go ahead and jump into our discussion for tonight. So I am going to go into talking about the Philly shooting that was just recently that happened to the young man, Walter Wallace. And I'm going to talk about some things about that tonight. And my take on it is going to be from more of a, I guess I could say, more of a tactical perspective. So I want to go ahead and preface this early, even though I'm not about to immediately jump into this. I do want to go ahead and preface this now, and I'm going to probably state it again later. But if you are in a very emotional space, if you are in a very sensitive space and you don't want to look at or you don't want to be willing to look at things as they are happening in real time, how they are happening, and how you can be educated to learn from these things to not only be more knowledgeable, right, more educated, but also be very beneficial for you. So if you are new here, and you more so deal with everything emotionally and are very sensitive, this may not be the video for you. So you may want to go ahead and click off. But before we go into talking about that, I did want to mention, y'all, I think this is super interesting, and I think we need to talk about this. As somebody that did a walk away video, y'all, let me see when I can't even remember, because my time is just blurring so quickly these days. I don't know who else feels like that. Okay, 2 years ago. 2 years ago. So some of you were introduced to me from my walk away video. It was one of my videos that did higher numbers, where I talked about basically, becoming more aware of this scam of how typically as Black people vote for Democrats, and learning more, kind of separating myself from the media and noticing not only what was happening in real time around me, so what was happening in my life, what I was seeing going on with my friends and family as relates to community, legislation, economics, upward mobility, like all these things, things as relates to like healthcare and things like this, looking at these things in real time, and even things at like police brutality, what we're going to be talking about tonight, right? Looking at these things, and I'm getting this emotional response for the people that I've typically voted for. Like, I'm your friend, I'm your ally, I care about you, Black Lives Matter, and all of these things. But when I held the freaking paper up to the light and was trying to see what was real and what wasn't, a lot of these feel-good moments were not translating into legislation. They were not translating into the communities that I was seeing and different things like this. And so I was frustrated. And there's a person that's not even that freaking old. Like some of these people, you 60, 70, y'all have seen the most. And to me, at some point, stuff just gets repetitive. It gets old. It's like somebody's lying here. Something's not right. Somebody's not telling the truth. And so anyway, I came to that conclusion. I was like, screw this, and it started me on a journey of paying more attention to what's actually going on around us and not what's just being talked about, but what's being inked on paper, right? And so when I did that video, even though I got a lot of good feedback, I also got a lot of bad feedback, okay? A lot of bad feedback. People were talking crazy to me like I was everything but a freaking child of God. I was getting very hate-filled messages and all that kind of stuff, right? Now, it's interesting. Here we are 2 years later. And, that's not that long ago, but long enough. And here we are 2 years later. And now it's becoming more mainstream. I wouldn't say, exactly mainstream, but it is becoming more mainstream when a person like Ice Cube, even though you have the powers that be, right? Like a CNN that says, oh, we're going to stop you from coming on the next show because we know we don't like what you're saying because our endorsers, right? The people that endorse us, the people with the money that want to see favorable legislation for them don't like what you're saying. And if our sponsors don't like what you're saying, then we can't like what you're saying, right? But as y'all see, more and more people, somewhat, I guess you could say like Kanye West kind of opened some doors in some respects, and you've had others, right? Like you've had the ADOS movement, you had the Blexit movement, and all these other things. And so you got a lot of people like the freaking jig is up, all right? People are ready to diversify. People are actually ready to look at what these politicians are not just saying, because you could say anything, but what you're actually doing in real time. And so now you are seeing the results of that. And I'm going to show y'all that tonight, and I'm very excited to do so because not only have I talked about this 2020 being the year of vision, right? The year of clarity. A lot of people in COVID added to this as well, right? We see people seeing that the government is not we're still freaking waiting on this other stimulus check. Where the heck is it, right? So they're playing politics with your life. They're on Capitol Hill, going back and forth, pretending that they care about you. They stopped you. I think I told this story last week, and I'm going to tell it again. They stopped you from working your job. And now they're like, oh, fend for yourself. Personally, myself, right? Technically, you stopped me from working my job. You closed my job down for however long. And yet you're still sending me freaking stuff in the mail, like bills for like my car tag and stuff like this. So technically, I've started using the highways less, way less, because I'm not traveling as much. The government stops me from going to work. I didn't just wake up one day and say, hey, I just don't think I want to work for a little while, or I think I want my job to shut down. The government stops my job, doesn't send a second stimulus check. And so I think a lot of people are just, waking up to the games, how they're being used as political pawns. And now people are saying, if I'm going to do this, if I'm going to go stand at the freaking polls for hours, I want to get something out of it. Okay. And I don't think that that's a bad thing. In fact, I was encouraging it 2 years ago and probably even a little bit before that. And I got people that were upset at me because I'm encouraging you. If you're going to vote for something, you should be getting something in return. Now, what you should be getting may look different depending on who you're talking to, right? People are not a monolith. Americans are not a monolith. Black people are not a monolith. Okay. So for different people, that is going to look like different things depending on the discussion you are having. However, that should have been a discussion that we were always having. And so Ice Cube bringing this to the forefront, being willing to work with both administrations seems genuine, seems a little bit in the late in the game to me. I did have questions and concerns about that. However, we'll see what happens. But let me go ahead and show you guys this. So this is in North Carolina. More than 3,700 Black North Carolina voters have switched to unaffiliated since 2016 election.
Tiffany Pass from Person County has been a registered unaffiliated voter nearly 20 years.
I love it because I don't have to vote straight Republican or straight Democratic. And I can just, get a feel of each candidate.
Tonight, the State Board of Elections releasing new numbers showing since the 2016 election, a large number of Black voters have stopped identifying as Democrat. More than 37,000 now registered as unaffiliated.
That's a lot. So it's about choice.
Tiffany's choice is most evident during an election primary where she'll get to choose a Republican or Democratic ballot. Political experts say the numbers are not surprising.
It's also part of a broader pattern that we're seeing in North Carolina, in fact, throughout the country, that voters are increasingly affiliating or not affiliating with political parties.
Look at these numbers. Since the 2016 election, more than 123,000 North Carolina Democrats are now registered unaffiliated. More than 95,000 Republicans have made the switch.
There's also a sense that partisanship and polarization are kind of unattractive terms. I'm an independent person with my own thoughts and my own beliefs, and I'm going to vote however I want. And that's a way of showing the world that you're like that.
New conservative groups like Blexit, also known as Black Exit from the Democratic Party, are loving these new numbers out today. The group showed up in droves.
All right. So y'all can kind of see some of that. More than 37,000 Black North Carolina voters have switched to unaffiliated. So meaning you have more people switching to independents. Okay, they are diversifying. They're diversifying their votes. People, I think this year we're gonna see. I think it's next week, right? Next week sometime. I haven't even checked my freaking calendar. I think they said next week, y'all. Listen, I think that this upcoming election, we are possibly going to see the most diversified vote in terms of the Black community that we've ever seen. I also think you're going to have a large number of people that are not voting for the two main candidates. Okay, that's another number that I'm looking at. I recently saw a survey that came out that talked about how you have third-party tickets, like the libertarian vote that has increased by thousands over the last 3 elections. Okay, so I do think you're also going to have a lot of, more, I don't want to say a lot, you're going to have more people that are going to vote for Trump. More Black people that are going to vote for Trump this upcoming election. So I think overall, you're just going to see a bigger diversified vote. You may also see, along with a diversified vote, I'm not quite sure yet. Like, this is just kind of an opinion that I'm leaning to, but I also think you're still going to see a big number, or possibly even a bigger number, of people not vote. this election. So, out of the voters that you do have that are going to choose to participate, I do think that you're going to be looking at a more diversified vote all across the board. As far as a Black vote goes, it's been beyond time for this. It's been beyond time for this. Because the vote needs to be courted. It needs to be fought for, not just given. And what the heck does your vote even matter if it's just already given? If it's literally already given, I don't even see, when you really just think about that on a basic, just most surface level, what does somebody owe you, have to do for you, have to prove to you if it's literally already given? It's nothing they have to do for it. It's some saying that goes, y'all help me if I'm saying this wrong, this a little bit before my generation, but I'm from the South, so I still kind of like heard it from time to time. But I think it goes, why give the milk if the cow is free? You know what I mean? So it's been beyond time for this, right? And then not long before the election, you have NBC MSNBC that comes out with this. Let's see if they're gonna let me play it. And I'm super surprised that they even showed this, right? So soon towards the election. But let's take a look at this.
To talk about where their heads are going into tonight's final debate. Chris, what did you learn?
Well, unlike these folks, and they've been lining up in Atlanta pretty much all day long in a steady stream, our folks say absolutely not for Donald Trump, but not sure about Joe Biden for a whole myriad of reasons. And at the top of the list, they are tired, they say, of a Democratic Party that they think has left taken Black women voters for granted. Check it out.
I am totally undecided. I'd write your name in at this point.
Usually by now I would have voted already, but I'm just not comfortable with either one of them right now.
What are you looking for? What do you need to hear?
Let's start at the crime bill and the fact that he has not only not apologized, he has not only not rectified. Every time he reverts back to, well, it was the Black Caucus members in the church, but they were with it too. Okay, you fooled them as well. You know, you never said I'm sorry. You know, it's like I didn't do it.
I want to hear an ironclad plan. I don't want to hear if this or if that or after the election.
Does the presence of Kamala Harris on the Democratic ticket sway you at all?
Not at all. I don't know who said she had our vote. She does not. We were supposed to grab onto Kamala with the black girl magic, but that didn't happen.
She sound like me, y'all. I'm super shocked MSNBC would even air something like this October 22nd, right? Going right into the election. But this is what has been happening. And the crazy part about it is that this frustration that people are feeling, this pulling away, this, becoming more aware, whatever you want to call it, it's not even that new or that, it's there is a steady effort to undermine certain voices that don't align with mainstream media. And believe it or not, oftentimes the most loud political agenda, right? And we could talk about that, over a plethora of genres, right? We can talk about that when it comes to, movies and the imagery that they show and the things that they say are the most popular or people, just find okay, like these mainstream themes, right? Oftentimes, if you don't align with the mainstream narrative, you are silenced, you are quieted, you are pushed to the back, you're made to seem that you don't exist. Was one of the main points why I thought it was so important to, even for me, start my YouTube channel, because I'm looking at the TV and I'm like, that person doesn't represent me. That person doesn't represent me. Okay, I see you tried to make this girl look like me, but she doesn't think like me. We don't even seem to have just that much in common. And I'm like, but what about all the people that I'm around every day that I know that think or believe in some of the same concepts or same ideas, that I do? However, it's not mainstream, but it's very common when I think about what I'm actually seeing in real time in the real world. Like, I have so many people that, like, when they see me or in my DMs that are like, I agree with you, I think the same thing, but I never say it because, it's not like socially, you know what I mean? It's not like the socially acceptable, or it's not like, or they may be concerned about what their job, oh, I can't say this or that because of my job, And so, whether we could literally talk about that on any freaking level. Y'all know I've talked about, like, my views towards, it could be feminism, right? Even when the slut walk, I see Amber Rose is like trying to come back in the media or something here recently. But the slut walk, or just all these different things that people have tried to make political. But oftentimes when you talk to people one-on-one, the media pushes the most polarizing views. And in fact, most people, especially Black people, believe it or not, are way more moderate when it comes to traditional values, family values, religion, like all of these other things, even like politics, typically more moderate in the way they move through life, as opposed to how we, oftentimes voted as a group. But the media is never going to give rise to or any kind of clout to those voices, because it doesn't freaking pay the bills. Okay? That's just what that is. So these women sitting here, and these aren't like, these look like just your regular, just kind of everyday women, right? And so these conversations that they're having here are much more likely, are much more similar to the conversations that a lot of people are having, believe it or not. And even with Ice Cube, I saw that a lot of the news articles were trying to paint it as, a lot of people are pushing back against Ice Cube, or Ice Cube is taking a lot of heat. Is Ice Cube taking some heat? I mean, sure. Of course he is, especially going so close into the election. But you also have a lot of people that feel like he is really saying and doing something of value, and kind of putting a name or bringing rise to the voices or some of those not so heard conversations. So these are some things to think about. Is showing in numbers. I do think, even though I don't think the results are going to be immediate, just because with all of the mail-in voting, but I think we are going to see this reflected in the number. And overall, I think it's a good thing, because I think people need to be more cognizant of what they're voting for, what they're asking for, and what people are actually doing in real time. Not just the feel-good moments, not just what they're saying for those viral moments, right? But their actual record, their legacy on paper. So I think this is interesting. Y'all know at some points I've kind of like lashed out, because in some ways, when I see the Democratic Party, when I see how when I literally see how they cheated Bernie Sanders, when I see how Kamala Harris could go on a national stage and call Joe Biden a racist, then turn around and be his running mate, when I see how they basically push Joe Biden to the forefront, even with when we're looking at his mental capabilities right now. And what I mean by that is, his memory and things like that declining. When I just see, like, when I see, the current president talk about, how make an address and talk about these measures, these statistics of, more women in Congress, when you have these numbers of unemployment, when you have all these other things that are happening, and just the responses that I've seen, y'all, I just feel like, and then to take Black voters for granted for so long, and to try to pretend to care about immigrants, but basically trying to create some type of a buffer class to keep this bottom caste, and try to throw everybody in this pot, and like, oh, like, we're for everybody. And it's made me very it's made me a little, what's the word that I'm looking for? It's like, I don't know the exact word that I'm looking for. Maybe it'll come to me later. A little bit like, not spiteful as in angry. You know what I mean? It's not like an angry feeling, but it's like when you see in real time somebody, and it's crazy now because I'm thinking like Malcolm X basically said something similar to what I'm about to say. But when you've seen this person posing as a friend, and the more you learn, and it's like, wow, like, this how y'all out here doing it, or this is how you could have been doing it the whole time, but I wasn't even paying attention because I thought you were my friend, So when you start to see all those things, it kind of it's like you almost want them to freaking lose as a revenge thing. So it's like, do you care to learn from this, or do you not? Because this is the same. Some of these steps are the same. Like, how is this not a repeat of 2016? How is it not? Like, somebody tell me what's different. And I personally believe Joe Biden is a worse candidate than Hillary Clinton. Especially when you look at his mental decline. And even his, if we're talking about his mental decline, or even his favorability, I personally believe a lot more people liked Hillary. I could be wrong. That's just my opinion. And she just seems to just have been a more favorable loved. It could be the woman thing. I don't know. But people, if you look at the numbers, even if you look at the appearances that Joe Biden has done, he hasn't been bringing out people in crazy numbers. There hasn't been, and even the freaking campaign knows this. Even the campaign knows this. They know this so much because even they're not trying to drum up energy around Joe Biden. What are they trying to do? Everything is about getting Trump out. It's not about how great Joe Biden is. They know it. They even run their campaign like that, right? So, but we'll see what happens soon. I will be glad when this is over with, so most people can go back to their regular lives, because I feel like a lot of people is just hyped up off how the media is spinning everything right now, even going into talking about this Walter Wallace thing tonight. But you know, I like, everybody wants to focus on the freaking boogeyman. Trump is the boogeyman. And a lot of times people be so focused on that, you're not even focused on what's going on with your freaking mayor, your governor, your city council. Policing is a direct result of local level. The police answer to your local government. Policing is local, right? And so even when we're talking about things like that, just the way people are trying to just encapsulate everything and put all this energy into one person, I don't know, it's just weird. It's like weird, and it's kind of lame, honestly, especially when I see guys do it, like men, you know, because it's real. I'm just saying, I just don't expect that coming from men, to try to make this one person the big boogeyman, and you're not thinking from a logical perspective of all the moving parts and everything that's happening around you. And even when we're looking at, like, I've been talking about a lot of the legislation that has happened over these last 2 years. And when we're looking at things that have happened on paper, you know, this whole, you know, Nazi, or what are some of the other things y'all have said? When we're looking at the legislation in real time and what's happened on paper, it's just not the facts of the matter. It's just not. Now, people may bring up, oh, well, what about judges? You know, the judges going on the Supreme Court. Those judges are going to be there forever. First of all, number one, let's start by looking at what is the main benefit? What is the main benefit that Black people have ever got from the justices? So let's start there, because we would have to actually look at that in real time. The second thing is, I only care about judges that are there to subscribe to the Constitution, subscribe to it in full, and apply it equally. That's literally the only thing that I particularly care about. Now, some may see things differently, right? And depending on what rulings we're actually talking about, some things have worked in people's favor. So I did a video recently where I was talking about Supreme Court justices, and I talked about some better rulings versus ones that I didn't agree with a couple weeks ago. But anyway, so yeah, I'm ready to move past this, because even with the police brutality, like we're getting ready to talk about here, to try to sit here and pretend like, even more so, I think looking at the numbers, last time I checked, and this was several months ago, there were more unarmed Black men killed during the Obama and the Joe Biden administration. Now, like I said, I haven't looked at these numbers in a few months here, but that was the last time I checked, right? So even when we're talking about the Sandra Bland's, when Obama literally goes on TV and says Trayvon Martin could have been like my son. What time do y'all think that happened in? So from a police brutality standpoint, like when people just try to make it seem like, oh, Trump, like I can't rock with it. Like it's just lame. People are just, it's no truth in it. It's just no truth. It's no truth. Police brutality has existed. It existed before Obama. Okay, let's make that clear. It existed before Obama. We can go all the way back to freaking Rodney King. It existed during Obama, and it still exists. Okay. And so this is why it's so important to me that we are always talking about laws that infringe on our freedoms, because every freaking law, every freaking regulation got what they're saying now, state guideline, comes at the end of a barrel. I need people to understand that. The sooner you understand that, then you can pay more attention to when your governor says, we're going to do this mask mandate. We're going to make this a state guideline. You have to do this according to the governor. Okay? And the police are hitmen for who? The mayor and the governor. So when your governor comes out and says this, when you back it up and you're cool with it, you are suggesting that it is okay, that I'm okay with a man with a gun showing up to force you to follow this guideline. So that's when we start asking ourselves, am I okay with this? It could be anything, right? I've talked about gun control. Is it really worth a police officer showing up at your door because you have a bump stock? Is it really? And this is something that Trump was cool with, okay? Mr. Say he the most two-way candidate. All right? And this is why you have to be aware of these things regardless of the letter behind their name and who is in office, because you have a Republican president signing off on gun control, gun legislation, right? Gun control. That's what that is. So when a person like Trump or your congressman says, "Oh, we don't want people to have bump stock. We don't think they need that," or it could be anything. It could be a certain magazine capacity. Oh, you shouldn't have that many rounds. Okay. If you believe that, as the voter, if you believe that, now you're saying, you're also, every time you vote for something, right? You're also saying, this is so important to me that I think if a person doesn't follow this or agree with this, I think a police should be able to show up at their door with a gun. That is what you were saying. So they could be as simple as, or simple or not simple, as mask mandates. Or something like gun control. It could be drugs, right? All of these things. And so these are the things to think about. And these are the things that should be important to us, expanding freedom. And I don't particularly believe you do that with more rules and more laws and more regulations. I don't see how. So these are the things people need to constantly think about. This is why I always talk about these things, even when it's not popular, when it's not hashtagging, when it's not trending, when I don't know how many people are going to click to view my video, I still freaking talk about it. When they say, when they didn't even get your permission, and they say, oh, we're going to start putting these drones out. Finding a savvier way. We're just keeping you safe. We're deterring crime, right? Now you can show up for me, I don't know, smoking the freaking cannabis in my backyard. It could happen. These are things to think about, right? Are y'all seeing where in New York City you have police officers showing up? You have these Jewish people, police officers showing up to their front door saying, why do you have more than 10 people in your house? Why do you have more than 10 people in your house? And you tell me why we made that okay. I don't think a man showing up with a gun should be worried about the people in my freaking house if no actual violent crime was committed. I don't think that. Now, to some of y'all, it may be worth it. It may be worth it. But when these things translate into police brutality, because this is what happens, more interactions with the police means what? I'm just putting 2 and 2 together here. So now you are creating more reactions, which translates equals more potential police brutality. That just seems like it makes sense. So these are things to think about. I see a lot of people are, like I said, becoming independent voters. Like they're not okay with what we've been getting, what we've been seeing. And I love this. I think it's an awesome first step, and it's a great direction, because now when you say this, you know, I presume that people are paying more attention and they're not okay with the same old, right? And so we have to be aware of these things on a local level in real time. The media lies, okay? They lie both ways. They'll lie about what's going on, and then they'll turn around and put somebody on TV that looks like you and says everybody that looks like this thinks like this. And it's just not the freaking truth. It's just not. So all right, let's go ahead and jump into, we're going to talk about the Walter Wallace incident tonight. If you are new, a couple of things. You can go ahead and subscribe. Please go ahead and subscribe. Also, give this video a thumbs up so, you know, the algorithm will do what the algorithm does. I prefaced this a little bit at the beginning, but I'm also going to go ahead and preface this one more time because I want to be clear about what I'm going to talk about tonight. Okay? Walter Wallace was a Black man in Philadelphia that was recently shot to his death by officers. Okay. There have already been riots that have started in Philadelphia. I think I saw a picture of like a police car burning and maybe some other things, some possible looting and things like this. Interesting enough, this is happening, you know, right closer into going into the election. And I find it interesting that the media chooses to highlight this story, whether y'all want to admit it or not. Whether you believe it or not, whether you want to accept this or not, the algorithms, the media, the social media conglomerates and oligarchs heavily sway the things we do talk about and the things we do not talk about. Okay? Whether people want to accept that or not. So we're going to look at this video here. And tonight I'm going to be talking about this more from a tactical, I guess you could say, perspective. So if you are an emotional person, if you are sensitive, if you react to everything with your heart on your sleeve, this may not be the video for you. It just may not, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and preface there. I am not here to appeal to your emotional sensibilities. That's not why I'm here. You have enough of the media that does that. You have particularly enough of the urban media that does that, so much so where I think on purpose, they keep us from expanding on knowledge, on the tools that's available to us, the knowledge that's available to us, things dealing with the law, the Constitution, even in regards as to becoming trained, right? Purchasing a firearm, becoming trained. So if you are not interested in hearing any of this, again, I will say this is not the video for you. As a newer, not the newest, but, well, I'm not really new anymore, but a gun owner, a Second Amendment advocate, right? I want to put people in a position to become safe, responsible gun owners. I want people to become gun owners, and I want people to become trained. I think everyone should be trained in some type of self-defense tactical course. So much so, I think it would be super beneficial to not only just people on a personal level, but even to communities to become trained, because not only do you learn the tools available to you, you also learn what officers are looking for, ways you can possibly de-escalate the situation. Do I think you should have to do that? No, in a freaking perfect world, I don't think you should have to do that. However, we're going to stick in reality, okay? You don't know every single day you go out of your door. You don't know who's waiting for you. You don't know this person's emotions. You don't know their lack of training. You don't know their lack of knowledge. You don't know their biases. You don't know any of this. So what I want to do, okay, I want to help put people in a position to be the most knowledgeable, aware, and moving towards a direction of becoming the best person that they can be, so they can help themselves, they can help their community, and they can help others. That's my goal, okay? So, thank you, Madam Von Cook. She said, thank you, Rhonda. You are saying many things that need to be said. Thank you so much. Okay, so why I found that this particular video was interesting. So I know a lot of you already saw the Walter Wallace video. Why I think this video is interesting, and it's obviously, to me, I believe, getting this much attention before the election, because of the tension and, you know, all of the things that have been going on in the country. All right. Typically, when you see the protesting and things like this, when you see Black Lives Matter, when you see the hashtagging, typically the stories that the media usually gets behind is unarmed, okay? Unarmed Black men, those stories. Here you have a story where Walter Wallace was had a knife and was walking versus charging towards the police. Okay. Now, something that a lot of people have been saying, two of the main things that I've been seeing people saying is, one is shoot him in the legs, And the other is that why would you shoot somebody with a knife? So not those exact words, but I think y'all kind of see where I'm going with that. All right, so let's address this first thing. Okay. I really wish people would stop saying shoot him in the legs. Okay. Shoot him in the legs. Stop saying it. Stop saying shoot him in the legs. Every single time somebody says that, it is completely obvious that you possibly, definitely do not own a firearm, and you definitely do not train. Okay? You do not. The first thing you learn when you go to train with a firearm is that most people, whether you're an officer or a civilian, are going to aim for this area. Let me tell you why if you don't know this. First of all, okay, headshots are the hardest shot because your target is moving. Also with the legs. Second of all, you are more likely, if you are trying to shoot a moving target in the legs, y'all have to think about all the people that were out there. If your emotions won't allow you to think about this, I apologize. Okay? If you shoot a person, try to shoot them in the legs as they're moving, and you miss them and shoot a random person, you are responsible for each and every bullet that comes out of that firearm, whether you are a civilian or a police officer. Okay, let me follow this up by telling you even more so how. This is why when you have officers that are executing a no-knock warrant for Breonna Taylor, and you return fire where you were executing this warrant, and a bullet strays, and now people are confused and they're like, I'm sorry that somebody else got justice before you got it. That's the difference between the intent and the direction of where that bullet was aimed versus where it was not. You can be mad about this. Your feelings can be hurt about this. Or you can take it upon yourself to learn these things, even as a civilian, right? To protect your own life, to not end up in jail. Also, when you have a person coming at you with a knife, typically what you're going to learn is you have about, I think, 21 feet, 20 to 21 feet before you should be getting ready to acknowledge, try to de-escalate, basically do whatever you're going to do in that moment. So somebody could be at a standstill point and getting ready to charge you in a matter of seconds. Okay? According to the information that we have right now on Walter Wallace, all right? I think this was according to, I read it to USA Today. He was about 10 feet from the officers. I went back. So I ended up seeing on Instagram today, when I saw the original video, it was kind of weird because it looked like the guy that was videoing was in his car. Okay. And he's like videoing over his shoulder and he's moving and this and the other. So I'm super interested if I could find a better angle I go to find a better angle, and I think I saw it once, but I could never come across it again on Instagram. And I was also noticing that I saw people on social media saying, remove the video. This video shouldn't be up because we don't want to hurt his family. We don't want his family to see that. Now, y'all know in previous situations, my thought has always been how we are constantly bombarded with videos, particularly on your social medias, like your Twitter, your Facebook, and your Instagram, of unarmed black men being killed, and those videos being easily accessible, very highly shared and things like this, as opposed to seeing any videos of other ethnicities constantly being killed by police officers. I think it's interesting when you go to places like YouTube, you can see more of those videos. So it started to make me wonder, why do people want this particular video removed? Why do people want this particular video removed? Is it because that the most energy is usually brought up by unarmed people being killed by police officers, and you still want to use this person's name in this story without, because I've told y'all, we just talked about this last week, most people only are going to read a headline. 70% of Facebook users in a survey admitted to never going to read further details, sharing stories based off the headline. So in my head, do these media companies, social media, algorithm keepers, gatekeepers, whoever, do you want the potential, the high sharing quality, as opposed to the actual truth of the situation? This is not the typical story that like a Black Lives Matter or protest would get behind, yet as we start to go further into an election, you use what's available to you. It happened, let's throw it on the news, let's stir some stuff up. Eric said they're not all bad cops, they have bad training. So I'm glad you said that. So one thing I noticed, especially in the height of the defund the police, movement and stuff like that. Another thing a lot of people will say is the police are not trained. They're not trained. They don't know what they're doing. They should be better trained. When people say that, I agree, right? So I want to add this. I 100% agree. They should be better trained, okay? But when people say that, do they even know the training they are calling for? Especially when we're talking about people that are not gun owners. Now, I don't know if Eric is a gun owner. I'm not exactly sure. But just people in general, when they say that, right? If the same person that says they have bad training is also the same person that's saying, why don't you just shoot them in the legs? You don't know. And I'm thinking, should I show these videos tonight, right? I had two other videos when this happened. I had two other videos that automatically just came to my mind, because your mind tries to compare and contrast to other situations and stuff like this. And I'm like, if the same people that are saying their training is bad are the same people that are saying, like, shoot them in the legs, and why would you shoot somebody with a knife, and these people possibly, obviously, are not tactically trained, possibly not even gun owners, right? And you're saying stuff like that. You don't know who's doing the training. You don't even know what the training entails. And then you turn around and say, defund the police. So the point that I'm trying to get to is that if people are going to say things, it seems as if you should be moving in the direction that allows you to know and be more knowledgeable about the things that you're actually talking about, right? So if you say you want to defund the police, or you want police to have more training, but you have no clue what that actually entails, how does that make sense? No, Eric, I didn't say Eric said defund the police, y'all. I wasn't saying that about you. I'm saying this being the general conversation, right? If people don't understand the moving parts, even if, so there are some rumors going around, I don't know if this has been validified yet, that this guy may or may not have been dealing with mental health. I haven't seen just full sources completely saying this. This has kind of been rumored, right? Even with how we deal with mental health, if you are one of those people that say defund the police, if I'm looking at this video and his mom is chasing him around, he has this knife, that means somebody in this neighborhood called the freaking police. It makes sense to me to look for community issues. If the police are going to show up to do what the police have been freaking doing. 2 + 2 looks like it equals 4 to me. I want to not only give people tools, inspire people to find their own tools to avoid some of these freaking things that are happening. And all I see is a roller coaster of conversations that it's like no ends to the means. So even if we're talking about mental health, right? How do the freaking police get there? Are you the person? Are you the defund the police person, but you're also the person that's going to call the police on your mentally ill family member? I know somebody who this has happened to. I'm not just sitting here saying this. I literally know of someone who called the police on their mentally ill family member. They come up to respond to what they think is somebody that is acting violently, and they respond. And so somebody in the chat says, how do you interpret what defund the police means? So I'm going to tell you, I interpret that a couple of ways, because overall, I don't freaking trust government. I don't. Okay. A lot of this money goes missing. A lot of it is freaking embezzled. A lot of it is like, where is it going? What is it happen? What's happening to it? What do we have to prove for it? So supposedly defund the police means putting this money into other avenues, right? Which on the surface level, I don't have a problem with it. I don't have a problem with it. I want to expand freedom. I want less police interactions. However, when you don't understand how to communicate or the things to actually look for in real time, right? How are you going to bring these things to fruition? Do people understand that? So think about this. Think about this. If you get a call saying that even a person with mental issues is walking around with a knife, even if you have a mental health expert, that mental health expert is also going to have to be tactically trained to deal with potentially violent individuals, or they're still going to have a freaking police officer there with them. That is what's going to happen. And so even by a mother with a mentally ill child knowing what, like, you have to know what the police are coming there to do. And when somebody has a knife in their hand, that person is going to stop the threat. Even for a freaking civilian. And I don't know why. It absolutely should not be this way. But in some regards, particularly in the discussions amongst like 2A like advocates and activists and stuff like this, we talk about holding gun owners to this super freaking high responsibility, right? If you know the things that the officer is looking for, if you are willing to become knowledgeable about what that freaking officer is looking for, you can be the person to help your mentally ill child, neighbor. But yet you have people in a community. People are laughing, like saying stuff, not taking it serious, not willing to help the mom. Somebody in this neighborhood made a call to the police. You have all these things in motion. And I feel like you have so many people that want to pick this one thing as a problem without looking at all these things that create these type of situations. It starts with us not having these discussions, right? Not having these discussions about expanding freedom, which includes not voting for more laws and more mandates that make police officers be even heavier on you. It starts there. Then it starts to y'all, I will do a training class and I am the person in there asking all the freaking questions because I want to know every single thing that what I need to do in this situation. What could I do here? If I'm in an altercation, the things that they are looking for, police officers. So this fantasy world, like that people want to live in, I can't. I can't do it. Is this situation going to be investigated? Yes. Do I think this situation could have possibly been handled better up at the point maybe before this person was walking towards the officer with the actual knife? Maybe so. I don't know. I don't know everything that happened in that situation. But thinking people just these responses of shoot them in the legs, or why not do this, or why not do that. If you are not if you are literally not even trying to learn the things that are available to you, and maybe things you can even do in real time, it just seems I'm just trying to help people get off the roller coaster. That's it. Because it just seems like people keep having the same repetitive conversations. And this is why I would love, in actuality, I would love for the possibility of everybody being some level of tactically situational awareness training. So not only do you know the things to look for to potentially save your life from someone, the things officers are looking for, being able to expand on these things in your own freaking community, and having these conversations. I just feel like the ball was dropped so many places here. But if we're going to sit here and try to pretend like people are just going to just take up the cross for this case, I think everybody needs to be at some type of point where they are challenged. Their adrenaline is rushing. So you learn not only how close, how short of a time somebody can freaking like cut distance. When the news puts out a story, or a politician, when a politician says shoots them in the legs, right? Or the media puts out a story and says that, oh well, he was only 10 feet away. They are banking on you. They are banking on you not knowing. When somebody thinks that somebody can charge you, meaning coming towards you with a knife, and you have people that are going to say, oh, well, using a firearm, they shouldn't do that. They shouldn't do that. They are banking on y'all not knowing and just saying that. And that's why you keep having these things happen. That does not happen in the real world, y'all. It does not. So anyway, I had two videos here that y'all may or may not remember, and I was just looking at them from distance perspective. The person coming towards the officer, looking at the object that they had and things like this. So one video y'all may remember was, do y'all remember when the cop shot the lady that had the scissors and she flipped across her desk or something like that? Let's look at this video first.
Hey! Hey! Get off the phone! Man, put those scissors down.
You're gonna have to shoot me, nigga.
Put those scissors down.
No, you're not taking shoot me. You're not taking shoot me. You're gonna have to shoot me. Please, baby, on number one.
Put those scissors down. Hey, put those fucking scissors down.
You're gonna have to shoot me.
Put those scissors down. Put those scissors down.
You're gonna have to shoot me, nigga.
Hey, go back over there.
You're gonna have to shoot me. You're gonna have to shoot me. You ain't taking me like a fucking slave, nigga.
104 quarters, 1033 channel. Give me a 65 over here. You got a white female. She has.
Yeah, you ain't calling. You ain't calling.
Hey, if you come over here, I will kill you. Drop the scissors.
All right, so y'all remember that video, right? And then this was another thing that ended up coming to my head. So this was a video when a guy had a knife and he was coming towards this officer and he keeps coming, right? Oh, this is showing an ad. Okay, sorry. Let's see if we can get through the ad. Oh, it's not this one. Wrong video. Anyway, okay. Let me see if I can find that video. That's not the right video. But some of y'all may remember it was a video where a police officer, a guy comes around a car and he has a knife and he's charging her and she shoots and I think he either went down and got back up or something like that. And she was able to stop the threat. This is what I'm saying to people in the chat, regardless of whether you want to hear it or not, because I feel like sometimes people need tough love. And I'm going to be honest with y'all. It is not wrong to have both discussions. And I think you're doing a disservice to people when you're not. The government overwhelmingly has failed. They failed, okay? If you know what these people are coming here to do when they get a call about a threat or somebody with a knife, the best thing you could do is arm yourself, your family, your community with knowledge and tools to know how to protect themselves and know the things that officers are looking for and how typically they are going to respond. These are things you can actually learn, whether y'all want to know this, admit this, or whatever the case may be. There are things that officers already learn as far as areas, where to shoot, different tactics they can use and when, right? And even if something happens, knowing, okay, this particular thing, I'm not just saying this off the emotions of that doesn't look like that's something you were supposed to do. I literally know it was against the law for you to do that. I have this information. Now I can work this up in court. To not have these discussions does a disservice, and it keeps people constantly on a freaking roller coaster of emotions. All of these things add to safer and better communities, particularly when we know the things that to look for and we know the things that are actually happening in real time. As somebody that is trying to lower the interactions of police officers with people in the first place, these are discussions that we have to talk about all the time. And this is not anything that I just get on freaking camera and just say. These are things that I am actively trying to learn, right? And I think even especially our young men, knowing some of these things could put them in a better position. It's very unfortunate that a lot of people are dealing with mental health issues. And I absolutely 100% want to see police officers better trained in knowing how to handle some of these situations. But you have to understand in real time, on paper, when this gets before a court, when you have a person with a knife, this changes the conversation. Not only that, when you have this witness that comes in and talks about the distance, right, it takes to be a threat to this police officer, and they're going to do all these measurements, and this is what happened before, and this happened like this, and on this part of the video you can see police officers backing up, and this was the only amount of distance it would have taken for him to fatally charge the officers, and this, that, and the other. You don't have to think about these things if you don't want to, but you know who is? The police officer gonna try to one-up you. The freaking lawyers, the judge. Why not already equip yourself with these things and know these things? And like I told y'all, I'll be the main person in the class like, what? Like, what? Because I need to understand. When people are saying defund the police, particularly in these cities, y'all know the cities that I'm talking about, when we've seen so much corruption, when we've seen politicians that have security guards saying this, and I don't know if you just saying this to funnel this money into some type of one of your organizations. We don't even know about the oversight of these things. And I just don't trust it when somebody that has security guards is promoting defund the police, right? So all these tools that can help for a better, safer community for every freaking body involved, not just the polarizing, oh, this what should happen. Because a lot of things should happen, right? A lot of things should happen. But while you're working your way towards this, while you're working your way towards all the unicorns and the flowers and the lilies and the daisies, while you're working your way towards this utopia of what you think could be possible, it would be best to equip yourself with the actual tools and knowledge of things that are happening right now in real time, in reality, beyond your emotions and your Cutie One said the same as PPE loans. Look who got them and didn't need them. That's my exact point. I have friends arguing me down when I told them, I said, y'all, that money is going to run out, and the people that you're thinking is going to get it is not. You wrong. You did it. Okay. Then all the reports of the money going where? To these large corporations. even people being more adamant, right, about, and this is just me kind of going back to these interactions, unnecessary interactions with the police. This one, I don't know exactly what led up to it. My guess is that somebody called and probably said, like, there's a man with a knife. They possibly said there's a mental ill man with a knife. But even when I'm just thinking about all the unnecessary interactions with the police, in some way or another, we continue to aid in that or allow that by not, talking about the Constitution as it, like, this is why I always talk about this stuff, y'all. And I don't mean to beat people over the head with it, right? But if we are not constantly addressing this, and this is why I told y'all, a Supreme Court justice, why does that matter to me if they're not expanding on the Constitution and expanding on freedom? What does that do for me? It does nothing. That's the only type of person I will want in that seat, because it's one of the only ways to lessen those interactions. And I don't understand what people don't get about that. Anthony Brown Logan said his mom called the police on him, allegedly. And so that's something we don't even know yet. But I also heard that, right? His mom called the police on him. Believe it or not, oftentimes there are family members calling the police officers on these family members. How can we address that in real time without this same roller coaster conversation of what this police officer shouldn't have done, when y'all know what they come there to do? OJ comes to say, I'm starting to notice on the news when it's a separate incident that they blur out the face. When it comes to rioting, they're happy to show the faces. That's interesting. I hadn't really noticed that. But like I said, people trying to get behind this, get behind this in the 11th hour. Walter Wallace, I I empathize with his family, right? But when you are looking at these things in real time, like, the police are not y'all friends. They're not. And I think people know that, but if you know that, you have to respond to this holistically, right? Literally, when I say holistically, I mean from every avenue. So that could be from what you're voting for, not voting for, upping interactions with them, upping them through your own knowledge. So you can make sure you know these things, even if you're somewhere with a friend, with a family member, and even having the ability and the knowledge to change maybe the trajectory, help change the trajectory of that situation. It's on my to-do list. I'm doing this. I don't think I'm a little late in the game for 2020, but first thing 2021, I am taking it very serious, learning first aid stuff. Because y'all have to also remember that a lot of the interactions that we see are also being fed by the algorithms, right? They're allowing us to see and not see what they choose. And so you have to think about all the instances that we don't see that possibly go differently or even similarly. But I think these are discussions that I'm going to start having more often. I want to also talk about more people becoming, trained, like, tactically in first aid, even in mental health. I feel like some of these things people can start doing on their own. Why does it always have to be waiting for the government to do something? And why I say this is one of my biggest pushbacks. I talked about this early on with NFAC, right? And I'm not like endorsing NFAC, and I don't think I know maybe one person from NFAC. I don't know. Anyway, so this is not an endorsement of them, but as far as the image, I talked to y'all about how I feel like inspiring it could be for Black gun ownership, right? But one of my biggest pushbacks was I think that this is something that we should be talking about on communal levels every freaking day, not just when police officers do something, right? So even think about having men around in these communities who, when your son, they're available to you, right? So if your son is having his mental health breakdown and you don't trust the police, right? Being able to have other solutions can help everybody. And I just, and maybe that's my utopia. Maybe I'm the opposite end of the spectrum of the people that I'm looking at some kind of way. You know what I mean? Maybe in my utopia, I just imagine that you can have these people right in your neighborhood. You can have all these cell phones, all this networking, man. Maybe it's just me. Maybe that's my unicorn. Maybe I just think too much. Maybe I think I ought to be able to count on my neighbor to be like, my brother or my son, he's doing this again. I don't want to call the police. Could you come over? Or I know you know first aid, or I know you know this. Having those people around. And y'all, like I always remind y'all, this is not something I'm just saying. I'm literally doing this in real time. I'm working on a network of knowing all these people so I can have them at my disposal. So when I need information or I need knowledge. And so I don't know, y'all. Maybe there's, I don't know, maybe it's too much. Maybe that's like the hopeful side of me. But I cannot continue to put my faith into other people that have consistently failed us over and over and over again, and then actually look to them to do something better than what they have done. We know what they have done and what they do and what they're coming there to do. It's on the freaking books. They're not peace officers. They are not there to protect you. They are law enforcers. This is what they are. So you can talk about the shoulda, coulda, wouldas all day. It sounds nice. We can chop it up over some coffee. We can have an emotional rah, rah, rah. We can do that. However, that doesn't change the things that are happening in real time. So, maybe I'm an optimist. Maybe I see some level of NFAC being like community based, and you have all these men that are local that it's like, hey, this one guy knows first aid. This one guy knows firearms. This one guy is good at de-escalating if we do have to call the police. This one guy knows how to deal with mental health. Let me dial them up. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. It's just, maybe it's a pipe dream. But I just can't continue to ignore what's happening in real time. Do I think Police need better training. First of all, if you're going to be a person that says that, you have to know what better training even means. Like, what does that actually mean? Because if you think better training is, oh, shoot them in the legs, it's not realistic. It's not realistic in no sense of the word, in no sense of the training. And if more people would take it upon themselves to be trained, you would actually know this, right? And so now you start to move and respond to things differently. So like I think it's a whole slew of things. And that's another thing. Patrick said the legs can kill you too. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's another thing that people need to realize. So I just think that, you know, whatever social justice warrior is watching right now, they may want to call me like a victim blamer or whatever the case may be. And you know, I'll take that. I don't agree, but I'll take it. But what I will say is, when you've seen something 100 times and you try to act surprised the 101, like who's the real problem here? And all I want to do is equip people with the tools where, even in whether it comes to law or whether it comes to actually in practice, things that we are learning and doing to help increase people's quality of life. And I think if more people thought about these things, I think it would. I think it would. And so I think it would. And so do you have I think a lot of police officers that are under trained? Yes, I do believe that. Do you have police officers that are hitmen for the mayors and the governors by, following up on unconstitutional laws? Yes, I do believe that. I also think that to try to use this case as the highlight of that, I think is disingenuous. And I think it's more so being done because we're going into the election time. I don't think that this particular case, had we not been going into election time, I do not think this would be viral. I don't think people would be having a discussion about this. In fact, my best friend knows somebody that this recently happened to, that was trying to I think kill his mom or hurt his mom, possibly mentally ill, and the police showed up there, and the police did what police do, and people were like, that's unfortunate, but it's not a national news story. So, I just think it's disingenuous, particularly when you go back and look at the video from the other angle. So, thank you, Soldier of Love. When you go back and look at the video from the other angle. So I can't, I'm not gonna I'm not going to I think when people don't make the distinction, you are muddying the waters for people who actually want to see bad police officers held accountable. Because we already know how the media narrative, we already know how the media is going to spin it, right? We already know how people are going to say, oh, Black Lives Matter, you know, these are the people that they choose to protect. They want to protect criminals. They want to let people stab police officers and stuff like that. We know how one side of media is going to paint that. We know that's going to happen. And we know that oftentimes it's not the case. And that's why the media will push, you know, things like this to the front to muddy the water, so actual things that could be put in place to help some of these things or reverse some of these things don't happen. I think it's on purpose. I think it's on purpose. They want to make these things oftentimes polarizing as possible without anybody being held accountable to actually have to fix the issues that's going on. But USC Waupun said the entire police system needs to be torn down and rebuilt if it's to serve and protect. But that's the problem. It's not to serve and protect. The police are not there to serve and protect you. And this is why I tell people, even calling the police on your mentally ill. See, this is where where I say we have to be knowledgeable, right? Because once you know that the police are not there to serve and protect you, now you don't even, you don't call the police with that mentality on your mentally ill family member like they're coming to serve and protect me. They're never coming to serve and protect you. Some of them may tell you that, right? Oh, I took an oath to serve and protect. They may say that personally, but that's not what's on paper. They're not there to serve and protect. They're there to enforce and stop threats. That's what they're there to do. And so once people know that, they can respond accordingly. And we have to give people the tools to know that, because when you don't, you're going to keep getting what you've been getting. And I think that's my point here. So they're not there to serve and protect you. Remember that. They're just not. They're not. They're law enforcers. Law enforcers, there to stop threat. So before you call that police officer on your family member, ask yourself, do I want them to stop a threat? Am I calling them to stop a threat? Am I calling them to enforce a law? Same thing when you vote for certain legislation. Is this legislation so important to me that I believe it should be enforced at the end of a gun barrel? That's just the truth of the matter. That's what it is. That's what it has been. Not saying, like I said, in some people's utopia, it'll change. But while you're working towards that, to ignore the things that are happening in real time, the things inked on paper, Joseph King said, I'm ready to stop threats myself. I'm cool without cops. Are y'all ready? That's what I would like to work up to. Believe it or not. That's what I would like to work up to. When people say defund the police, you have to also be able to take everything that could come with that, regardless of what they're telling you and how they're packaging it. You have to be able to take in real time the things that will come with that. So in my mind, in my head, yes, I'm trying to lessen all of the interactions. And so I'm going to take it upon myself, every single thing I can learn to do in the meantime. And I think if more people start thinking like that, you know, some type of and I say NFAC to give y'all a visual, because I don't know exactly everything they're doing. I know what y'all know, what we've been seeing, you know, the media and how it's been presented to us, and like some of the leaders interviews and stuff like that. I don't follow them heavily, right? But even thinking about what I was saying earlier about some of those ideas on a local level, why can't that happen? Why can't it? And then once you lessen those interactions, the money would have to go somewhere else. You would naturally defund them on your own, because you wouldn't be calling them, or they wouldn't be being as called as much. I don't know. That just makes sense to me. I could be totally wrong. That just makes sense to me. Helena said it starts with knowing local and state laws. Every city is different. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And sometimes I wonder, do people know that on the surface level? I know it took some BS to get there. And unfortunately, this happened during the murder of Breonna Taylor, right? But even when you have a Kenneth Walker, being able to use the tools available to him to use his firearm against police officers coming in his home, right? He's able to, they dropped the charges, or I don't, or maybe he wasn't even ever charged. I can't remember. But anyway, he's not held legally responsible for that because of the tools available to him. Now, however, when you make that decision, you have to take everything that comes with it, because unfortunately, you use your firearm, but your girlfriend, who I can't remember if she had a firearm, but when that results in her death, and then you have those stray shots, right? You have all these other things happening. And so these are just things that, like, when people learn over time, I mentioned earlier for the people that weren't here about people were saying, oh, well, the neighbors, you know, the stray shots got justice first, right? And that's because that person wasn't using a firearm. The police officer wasn't there for them, but that police officer is still responsible for every bullet that comes out of that firearm. And so when you start to know these things and put them together, you can see why things are working out the way they're working out, as opposed to the polarizing story that the media is trying to tell you every time. So but anyway. So, all right, y'all. I wanted to come on here. I wanted to come on here and talk about that tonight. Let me see what my dislike ratio looking like. But yeah, so anyway, I want to come on here and talk about that. I want actual people, excuse me, y'all, who think about solutions. Ooh. Excuse me. I want people who actually think about solutions in real time versus, you know, kind of like what we're seeing in some of these discussions we're having over and over again, I want us to have these discussions, and not just when they're trending and hashtagging and stuff like that. I want to do my part in that, and also y'all doing y'all part as well, and us arming ourselves with the tools, literally and figuratively, and not muddying the waters of the things we want to see, because I'm telling y'all, the media is going to do it, and they're doing it on purpose. They're not doing it to help you. They muddy the waters on purpose. So the things you want to see as far as police brutality, legislation like that, it doesn't come to fruition because people are so busy focusing on the polarizing, the most polarizing and the contrasting part, and talking about these things over and over again, opposed to the actual real-time legislation, and staying hyper laser focused on combating some of these issues or whatever. So anyway, Netta said why the mother couldn't call the mental hospital to come get her son. Why? And that's the thing that I'm trying to get people to see, and that's something that I want to learn about more as well, because these are things people have to talk about. You have to talk about these things. If you are caring for a mentally ill person, these are things you're going to have to consider. If you've seen this story play out 100 times and you're not thinking about ways to navigate, divert, adjust anything, you are doing yourself a disservice, your family a disservice, your community a disservice. And so I don't know, y'all. I guess I'm just but we'll see what's going on. But all right, y'all, so I'm out of here. Once again, thank you to my patrons, thank you to my VIP patrons, Ray, Michael Ray, Daniel, and Alexander. Thank y'all so much. Thank y'all for rocking with me every Tuesday. I appreciate you guys. If you would like to purchase your anti-status or entertainers are our leader tees, those are down in the link below, and I will see y'all again soon. Bye.